murder, rape, cannibalism. You will be surprised how dark fairy tales were in the olden days. In fact, they were so dark that they have to be changed dramatically over the years to suit kids nowadays. So, here are the top 10 darkest origins of fairy tales to give you a brief idea just how disturbing children's stories were in the olden days. Number 10 is Cinderella. In the dark origin, the two sisters desperately wanted to marry the prince. One day, they heard that the prince was looking for a woman who could fit into the glass shoe. The elder sister tried putting on the glass shoe, but her big toe won't fit. The mother hands her a knife and said to her, "Walking will no longer be necessary once you are queen." The prince, however, knew it was a trick when he noticed her feet was bloody and a toe was missing. Next, the second sister tried putting on the glass shoe, but her heel won't fit. The mother gave the second sister a knife, asking her to cut out her heel in order to be queen. The prince knew it was a trick again when he noticed her feet was also bloody and that her heel was missing. And finally, Cinderella was summoned from the kitchen, and the prince finally found his Cinderella. Cinderella is number 10, as it only involves self-mutilation. Number 9 is Snow White. In the origin, the jealous witch is actually Snow White's stepmother. Now, Snow White's stepmother made 3 attempts to kill Snow White. The first 2 failed, but the last finally succeeded. That is, the poison apple. So the 7 dwarfs made Snow White a beautiful glass cascade and placed her inside. Soon after, a prince passed by and saw Snow White's corpse, fell in love with the corpse and wanted to bring her home. And yes, it's necrophilia. So the prince man accidentally dropped the casket and Snow White coughed out the piece of apple stuck in her throat. And no, there was no true love kiss. And at the end of the story, Snow White got married to the prince, and Snow White's stepmother was forced to dance in red hot metal shoes until she dies. Snow White is number 9 as it involves murder and necrophilia. Number 8 is Hansel and Gretel. In the original work, Hansel and Gretel did not wander into the forest but was abandoned by their parents. In short, the parents expected them to die in the jungle. Hansel and Gretel later found a house made of gingerbread and cakes where a cannibalistic witch lived. They were both captured by the witch and fattened to be eaten later. Gretel outsmarted the witch and managed to shove her into the oven where she was roasted alive. Cannibalism, children killing for survival, how parents abandon their own children, secures this story a place in number 8. Number 7 is the Little Mermaid. Once upon a time, a beautiful mermaid saved a prince from a shipwreck, but the prince mistaken another woman as his savior. The Little Mermaid fell deeply in love with the prince and wanted to meet him in person again. She visited a witch, hoping that the witch would be able to give her a pair of human legs. The witch agreed helping her, but as payment, the Little Mermaid had to give the witch her tongue, which she did. Plus, there was another catch. If she failed to win the prince's affection, she will be turned into a form of bubbles. The Little Mermaid tried winning the prince's affection, but he fell in love with the woman who he thought had saved him from the shipwreck. In order to save the Little Mermaid, the Little Mermaid's sister visited the witch. The witch gave the sisters a knife, which the Little Mermaid must kill the prince with in order to turn back into a mermaid. But the Little Mermaid just couldn't do it. She jumped out the window and was turned into a form of bubbles. The Little Mermaid is number 7, as it involves mutilation, attempted murder, and a sad ending where the Little Mermaid died for chasing the one she loved. Number 6 is the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Long ago in Paris, Frollo tried to kill Phoebus after seeing him trying to seduce Esmeralda. Frollo then blamed it on Esmeralda, and she was charged with attempted murder of Phoebus. Because of this, Esmeralda was badly tortured and was sentenced to death by hanging. Quasimodo swung down by the bell rope of Notre Dame and saved Esmeralda, but she was later caught by Frollo again. Frollo tried winning her heart over again, but failed miserably. So Frollo handed her over to the troops and laughed out loud while they hung her. Quasimodo saw Frollo laughing and pushed him from the heights of Notre Dame to his death. After that, Quasimodo went to the graveyard where Esmeralda's corpse was left. He stayed with the corpse and died from starvation. This story reaches number 6 as it involves attempted murder, actual murder, torture, and the good guys die at the end. Number 5 is Sleeping Beauty. The original name of this story is actually Sun, Moon, and Thalia. Now, the story goes that Thalia fell into a sleep like death when a flag splinter got stuck under her nail. Out of frustration and depression, Thalia's father decided to place Thalia in one of his country estates. Soon after, a king found Thalia, unable to wake her up. He decided to rape her. She got impregnated and a few months later gave birth to twins. The twins was reaching out for the breast when one of them mistakenly sucked on Thalia's finger and drew the flag splinter out. The king went back to, rape her again, but found that she had woken up with his 2 children. The king decided to marry her. However, the king's current wife got jealous. She ordered the chef to cook the twins and serve them to the king. But the chef hid the twins instead. The king's wife wanted to burn Thalia alive next. Thalia screamed as loud as she could, and the king came into the rescue. The king was outraged, and he ordered his men to burn his current wife and his secretary alive. Sleeping Beauty is number 5 as it involves seriously bad parenting, Thalia's father, rape, marrying a rapist, and killing people by burning them alive. Number 4 is The Fox and the Hound. In the original work, the hunting dog named Chief was actually ran over by the train and was pretty much turned into mincemeat. The hunter became furious and he swore that he would kill Todd no matter what. A few years later, Todd was raising his own family when his den was discovered by the hunter and he gassed Todd's children to death. Todd's mate was later killed by a leg hole trap, which was set by the hunter. A few years down the road, Todd was raising a new family, but all of them were shot by the hunter. Further down the road, there was a rabies outbreak. Most foxes were infected, so the townspeople hired the hunter to eliminate all foxes near the town. The hunter set up traps like leg hole traps and poison. The poison killed most foxes, domestic animals, and even a little kid, but ironically, not Todd. Todd was later spotted by the hunter, and Copper chased after him. Too old and too weak, Todd died from exhaustion, and Copper collapsed on top of him. The hunter finally got his revenge. Few years later, the hunter was also getting too old and agreed living in a nursing home. As he could no longer take care of Copper, he took his shotgun, led Copper outside, pat him gently before ordering him to lie down, and covered Copper's eye. You know where this is going, right? The Fox and the Hound is number 4, as it involves killing the whole family of Todd twice, rabies outbreak that killed a lot of people and animals, the fact that innocent domestic animals and even a little kid was killed by the hunter, the fact that most characters inside the story died, and at the end of the story, everyone was miserable, even the hunter. Number 3 is Pinocchio. Now, in the original work, Pinocchio was actually a horrible son/friend. Pinocchio's father was imprisoned because of Pinocchio, as people thought he was abusing him. At home, Pinocchio was visited by a talking cricket, and he responded by smashing the cricket with a mallet. Pinocchio later got his feet burned off by sleeping with his feet in the stove. Don't ask me how that happened. Later, a cat and a fox approached Pinocchio to rob him. The cat grabbed hold onto Pinocchio, and Pinocchio responded by biting his paw clean off. The bandits hung Pinocchio on a tree to suffocate him. Thankfully, he doesn't need oxygen since he was a puppet. Pinocchio's father was worried about Pinocchio, so he set sail to find him and was swallowed up by not a whale, but by the terrible dogfish. I swear, I'm not making this up. Pinocchio was later swallowed up by the terrible dogfish as well. They later discovered that the monster had asthma, started a fire, and with the help of a giant tuna, managed to escape from the belly of the terrible dogfish when it was gasping for air. They returned home and met the cat and fox, who had become blind and lame. The author wanted to show karma, I guess. But at the end of the story, Pinocchio did manage to become a real boy. So that's somewhat a happy ending. Causing your own father to be in prison, running away from home, killing someone who wanted to help, burning your own feet off, biting a character's paw clean off, and hanging someone to suffocate them are the reasons why Pinocchio is number 3. Number 2 is Red Riding Hood. So in the origin, the wolf did not hide the grandmother, but ate her instead. The wolf then cooked the leftovers and saved some of her blood, so he could serve it to Red Riding Hood later. When Red Riding Hood reached her grandmother's house, she obliviously ate her own grandmother and drank her blood. The still oblivious Red Riding Hood then stripped down and got in bed with the wolf and was eaten whole. And the woodsman, who was supposed to save them, Yeah, he didn't exist back then. In short, this is the ending. Red Riding Hood is number 2 because it involves people being eaten alive, a kid stripping, which I am pretty sure is illegal today. The bad guys win, and most importantly, a child cannibalizing her own grandmother. Number 1 is the Pied Piper. Which is the original version is debatable. However, the most disturbing version is the one which involves pedocide. Now, the story goes that the townspeople hired the Pied Piper to kill all the rats in town. The Pied Piper was promised a hefty reward, so he led all the rats into the river, where they all drowned. After the job was done, the people refused to pay the Pied Piper, so he took revenge by leading the children into the same exact river, where they all drowned. The Pied Piper, even though the story is short, reaches number 1 because, unlike other fairy tales, it involves the mass murder of innocent children. I mean, we might be talking about hundreds, thousands, or even more innocent children, and this one reason have made the Pied Piper the most disturbing fairy tale ever told. Fairy tales. I guess it was created to scare kids straight. Thankfully, this practice is no longer encouraged because, let's face it, traumatizing kids can't possibly be healthy. This is Fender's Soul saying stay safe and thanks for watching.